Hi, thank you for joining me. I'm KJ, and my area of expertise at Search Influence is in technical SEO and social media best practices. Today, I'll be covering elements that impact your website's ability to show up in search ranks like Google when people are searching for products and services that you offer. A little bit about Search Influence. We are a nationally recognized full-service digital marketing and consulting agency, founded as an SEO agency back in 2006. We have 40 full-time employees, most of whom are based in New Orleans, and we work with clients in most major industries from insurance to real estate to B2B, with particular success in education, tourism, and medical. On our agenda for today, we're going to go over a few SEO foundations, then we'll touch on more technical SEO concepts such as site structure, site speed, and schema. We've arranged this from the most basic factors to the most advanced, so each topic will get a little more technical as we go. So, the goal of technical search engine optimization is to help Google more readily find your content and more easily understand what it's about. Technical SEO is all about the way your website is set up, including technical settings on the back end, the way it's coded, and how you leverage certain features. But before we get into all the specifics, let's go over a few of the basics. These foundational technical SEO tactics are most likely things you're already doing, but we'll run through them briefly for anyone who's watching who's brand new to SEO. Starting with having a robots.txt file, which essentially gives instructions to search engines on which pages on your site they should and should not crawl. No index tags, which is a tag that indicates which pages you do not want included in search results. No index tags are commonly used for things like thank you pages, privacy policy pages, or even admin login pages. The biggest mistake we see with this tag is when it's accidentally left on an entire website when a new design is pushed live. Sitemaps, which are linked to in your robots.txt file, lists out every page of a domain to help Google find all your pages. Meta descriptions are the short summaries of each page on your site that appear in search results to help a user decide if they want to click on your website. And lastly, image tag optimizations, which provide a text description of the photos on your site. Another foundational SEO concept is title tags. Title tags are where content writing and technical SEO really converge. The title tag is shown at the very top in the browser tab and also appears as the blue clickable link that users will see in Google search results. This tag is different than the H1 tag, which is the main heading on the actual page. We'll talk about headers on the next slide. But for now, remember that the title tag is the most important tag on the page, as it helps Google understand what the page is about. Think of the title tag as the binding on a book. If you walked into a library and saw 1 billion books with no title, how would you know what was inside or what you wanted to read? Heading tags, another place where technical SEO and content converge, are used to organize your content. Using multiple levels of headings makes your content easily readable by viewers and easily crawlable by Google. This is basic editing, right? Well, yes, good headings are expected. Where we see missteps with this, though, is with the heading tags themselves. The header tags are the coding on the back end that tells Google what type of heading each header is. The most common mistakes include 1, having headers that are simply styled text to be bolded or larger in size, but are not actually tagged as an H1, H2, or H3 on the back end. Number 2, having more than one H1 on a page, as there should only ever be one. Some of the examples we've seen of this are sites with the business name set as an H1 on every single page, or even sites with an H1 heading across the slider at the top of the page and then in the body of the content as well. Finally, a missed opportunity we see the absolute most is having headers that are too vague, such as properties for lease versus retail space for lease, or our services versus our legal services, coverage options versus commercial insurance coverage options. Okay, so now let's get into some of the more advanced tactics of technical SEO, starting with site speed. So imagine I'm at the grocery store and I decide to make tuna for lunch. As always, I can't remember every ingredient. So while I'm standing in the aisle, I start Googling recipes. I find a site that looks good, so I click the results. How long would you wait before you press the back button and choose another search results? Usually, when I ask this, most people say 10 seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time. But trust me, it is. Site speed refers to how fast a page on your site fully loads. A few seconds is a long time to wait for something that's optional. Users and Google expect for your website to load fully within 3 seconds. A few things that makes this challenging are large image sizes and an overabundance of plugins or JavaScript installed. To remedy some of these common issues, you can use the Smush It plugin, which allows you to optimize images without sacrificing image quality, or the Lazy Loading plugin, which delays the loading of resources or objects on a web page until they're needed. Since having too many plugins, even the helpful ones, is something that will affect your site speed, you'll also want to make sure that you're prioritizing which plugins you have. To test your site speed, Google provides a Page Speed Insights tool, which will give you suggestions on ways to improve your site speed. It also helps for you to regularly view your site as a user would from multiple devices, like your laptop, your phone, or your tablet. If you experience something on your site that you would find unsatisfactory on another site, use that as your trigger to update it. Now let's talk about site structure. Proper site structure is so pivotal to Google finding your most important content. So it can show it to users who are looking for it. Good site structure is achieved and maintained in several ways, one of which is the sitemap I mentioned at the very beginning. Now let's talk about 3 more ways, starting with the navigation of a site. In order to produce results when a user does a search, Google already has created an index of all the pages that exist online and organized them and, most importantly, graded them. They collect all the information by sending out tons of search engine crawlers search engine crawlers to crawl or read the sites. When they're able to crawl your site easily and quickly, they're able to know what great content you're producing and show it to searchers who may be looking for it. To make it easy on Google's crawlers, have an organized site navigation that links to all the most important pages of your site. Your navigation is going to tell Google which pages are most important on your site, which pages go together, and the overall topic of those pages. Looking at Search Influence's site as an example, we're telling Google that 1, we have specific services, and 2, what those services are. When appropriate, we have a third level within the navigation to keep similar content grouped together for both the user and Google. Just as we talked about with the headers, you should be strategic in naming each page in the navigation. Just as we said earlier, instead of saying properties for lease, it's more impactful to say something like retail space for lease. If you looked at Google's help pages and articles, they'll even tell you that your site's most important page is your homepage, and that is true. However, something that might not be as obvious is that as a site owner, you want more pages than just your homepage to rank, right? You want deeper pages to be found in search engines so that people can find their answer more quickly. And having a strong navigation is one of the ways that you do that. The second site structure element we'll discuss is URL structure. Now, in most content management systems like WordPress, URLs should be automatically driven by the pages standing in the navigation. Sometimes this is a good thing and no changes are needed. Other times, though, you have a page that you want to be found via Google that may be 3 levels deep in the navigation, like this page that we have for SEO pricing. On the page, you can see how it's not 1, not 2, but 3 levels deep. The automatic URL for this page would be searchinfluence.com/services/pricing transparency/SEO pricing. But instead, because we want this page to compete for searches like SEO pricing or SEO costs, we've rewritten the URL to focus on the keywords that people might actually search. So instead of taking up real estate in our URL with words like services and pricing transparency, because no one is Googling that, we will instead include words that people do search, like SEO pricing or SEO costs. Also, we're signaling to Google that this page is important because the URL no longer has 3 levels of directories listed within it. And here's the difference. The automatic URL is up top, and then our updated URL is down at the bottom. Internal linking is another way to help Google understand what pages are on your site are most important. Therefore, which pages Google should rank in its search engines more prominently. Internal links are links on your own website that direct users to other pages on your website. Proper internal linking can help Google crawlers crawl more of your site, increase page views and time spent on site by users because they're constantly getting deeper into the site. And ultimately, it can improve page ranking on Google and other search engines. Internal linking can look a few different ways, though. We've already talked about the importance of the navigation. Your navigation is the foundation of all internal linking for your website. If a page is not present in the nav and not linked to anywhere else, Google and most likely your users will have a really hard time finding that page. And Google definitely won't think that it's an important page for it to rank in search results. It's also important to give careful consideration to the pages you link to directly on your homepage. Don't go crazy and link everything because your homepage is valuable real estate. And when you link to the key pages from your homepage, Google takes that as a signal that these are very important pages on your website, which can help them gain more prominence in Google rankings. For this client, which creates industrial control systems worldwide, a key goal is to demonstrate their expertise in certain industries. So on their homepage, they prominently link to features about their industry specific pages. Another form of internal linking are breadcrumbs. Breadcrumb navigation expresses the hierarchy of the site, helping Google and users know where they are in the website and how this page relates to other pages. It also presents more links for Google to click and crawl deeper into your site. These breadcrumbs present a way for the user to easily backtrack to other pages where they can see more options. For example, here, a user is looking at the Master of Professional Studies in Emergency Management degree. And through the breadcrumb, they can quickly see the main master degree page and see their other options. Now let's talk about in-content links, the most famous form of internal linking. They are the manually placed links that are helpful to the reader to direct them to other pages. In-content links are a great way to drive more traffic to other pages of your site. You're probably already adding internal links, surely, but you may not be aware of their SEO value. You should purposefully add more internal links to the pages you want Google to pay more attention to. To really drive home the importance of internal linking, let's take a look at a client for whom we resolved an internal linking site structure issue and how it impacted their success. We noticed that the blog posts on neworleans.com were falling out of Google's index as new blogs were posted, and with that fell the traffic that was associated with those pages. We discovered that only the homepage was set up to link to their blog posts, and only the most recent blogs were included on the homepage. So there was no other place on the website that was linking to the older posts. When they were on the homepage, they were getting clicks from homepage visitors, as you'd expect, but they were also getting a good deal of organic traffic from search engines. Even though they were no longer featured on the homepage, we would expect the organic traffic to remain because searchers would still be able to find those blogs, right? But no, our research showed that they were totally falling out of Google's index. So, to resolve this, we worked with the client to create an insider blog section, which created a place for all these blogs to live on forever. Once corrected, the site saw an increase in organic page views to blog posts to the tune of 1,000% increase. That's going from 8,600 views all the way up to 95,000 views, which is a huge increase. These sorts of mistakes can happen, especially with site redesigns, but tools like Google Search Console can help you monitor these sorts of changes. The last topic that we're going to touch on today is schema. You see the result of schema markup very frequently in search results. Think about it. How is Google able to parse and show us cook times, ingredients, and reviews when we're searching for a recipe? Schema markup on the back end of these pages help Google understand the information on the page and make it easier to present the info to the user. The way Google presents these pages are called rich snippets. Schema markup helps Google better understand your content, even when a rich snippet is not available or even applicable. We do expect that Google will continue to make more and more rich snippets over time for different industries and types of schema. In the meantime, though, it's still very helpful to have content marked up with schema when appropriate, as it helps Google better parse the info on your pages. You can leverage schema to your benefit by understanding the available types and matching that to the content that's on your website. Let's talk about another example from neworleans.com real quick. They had a webpage about the history of jambalaya that was performing pretty well. So we encouraged them to include a jambalaya recipe on the page, and then we applied recipe schema to it. This ultimately led to the page earning a top spot right there on page 1 for jambalaya recipe related searches with a recipe rich snippet. This increased organic page views of this content by 780%. That's the difference of 7,500 views and 66,000 views. So I'm sure after that, you're wondering, well, how do you schema and what exactly is it? Schema, basically put, is HTML code implemented on a site to help search engines better understand your content. There are many different types of schema, but the type of schema that you choose for your site should be dependent on the content you're using it for. Common types of schema include local business schema, which highlights business information like your business name, your business hours, and even your social media pages. There's article schema, which is used for news article content or blog content. If you're publishing lots of blogs, news stories, or media and press releases, article schema would be something to look into. How-to schema highlights content that includes steps to a process. It's very close to recipe schema, but it would be for a process like how to tie a tie. FAQ schema and Q&A schema highlights answers to a question. At some point in time, we've all Googled a specific question, maybe like, what is Madonna's real name? And you'll see a box with the answer pop up right above the search results. That's a consequence of Q&A schema. The slight difference between the two is that FAQ schema is for an entire frequently asked questions page, where Q&A schema is for when you have one page dedicated to one question. Video schema allows you to mark up the transcription location and the description of your video. It used to be that you could get a video rich snippet next to one of your regular pages in the search results. More recently, though, we've only been seeing YouTube videos rank on regular Google search results. Google could change this moving forward, though, and begin to show videos from other websites again. Event schema highlights events your company is hosting, and it'll show location, time, and even admission fees right there in the search results. The most important thing to remember is that schema markup does not have any one visible result. Sometimes it appears as a rich snippet, while other times it can help information appear in the knowledge panel. But the primary goal is not visibility in the search results. It's setting the foundation for search engines to really understand your content, and visibility will follow. Here's an example of the HTML code on the FAQ page of a plastic surgeon's website. It may look very intense, I know, But when you break it down, it's literally feeding Google everything it needs to know step by step. So highlighted in green right now is the type of schema being used. So you see type, FAQ page. Now highlighted is the question being asked and answered. So you see type, then question, and then the actual question, which is what should I expect during my recovery? Lastly, you'll see the answer that's highlighted. Encourage your development team to spend some time on schema.org. This is the official resource for all things schema and will show you all types of available and how to use them. Maximizing your visibility is not something you do once. It's something you do over time. It's critical to establish standards that make this part of your process in order to produce the best results. So to recap, write very specific headings and properly tag them. Limit image sizes and the amount of plugins used on site. Leverage site structure options like navigation, URLs, and internal linking to get crawlers to key pages. Lastly, structure your content with relevant schema where it makes sense. Thank you guys so much for joining me.